We are Rogue Media Sports. Life can change in an instant. For many wheelchair users, the struggle to push forward is a daily challenge. After years of development and countless prototypes, we created Rib Grips, the revolutionary wheelchair hand rim covers with built-in ribs for ultimate grip and comfort. No more slick surfaces, no more heat burns, just pure, reliable grip. Rib Grips, empowering you to push forward with ease. Rib Grips. Get a grip on your freedom. Discover the difference. Visit ribgrips.com and use promo code GRIP today. You just found the perfect product that helps with staying cool during hot summer runs. No more gross warm water. Stay cool with this product from Gear Handle. This hydration tube cover helps keep your water cool and easily accessible. Stay hydrated during those long summer runs or even delay from freezing in the winter. Plus, they're compatible with various brands of water bladders and come in various colors. Visit GearHandle.com and use promo code H2O today.
All right, Doomsday Podcast, emergency session. Stop the presses. CeeDee Lamb has signed with the Cowboys. He's not going to hold out the whole season. It's happened. And he is a Dallas Cowboy, and he has signed the largest non-quarterback signing bonus in the history of the NFL. And it's a big number. Ed Werder, Matt Mosley reacting to this. And Ed, I would say the good news is that they kind of, in a sense, it sounds weird, it's for by the Cowboy standards, they got this done pretty quickly.
Well, I would say that they've lived up to their reputation or down to their reputation by signing CeeDee Lamb to a top-of-the-market deal, just before the start of the NFL regular season. He's been holding out in this contract dispute, obviously. And, just circumstantially, it reminded me a lot of Ezekiel Elliott's situation in 2019, because in both situations, the Cowboys head coach at the time, Mike McCarthy now, Jason Garrett then, were being forced to coach the final year of their contracts and feeling it would have been unfair to them not to have arguably their best player for week one. Garrett made that argument to ownership about Ezekiel Elliott in 2019. They got him signed 4 days before the start of the regular season. McCarthy certainly could have been applying that sort of pressure to Jerry Jones in the case with CeeDee Lamb, and they get him signed 11 days before the season opens in Cleveland against a really good Browns defensive team. And so I think, listening to Mike McCarthy today, he said that there was a lot of relief throughout the organization that this contract was done, the impasse resolved, and that CeeDee Lamb would have enough time, in his opinion, to ramp up and take his physical, do the paperwork, be cleared to take the field. And then, there's really no way to simulate. I know he's been working out on his own. We've seen video of him running on beaches and so forth. And Ezekiel Elliott did the same thing. But in this case, he's got to redevelop the sense of timing that he has on routes with Dak Prescott, as much as they've played together through the years and worked together in the offseason. Even this one at times, he's got to get used to making contested catches, being tackled, avoiding hits, all those sorts of things. But McCarthy seemed to think there was plenty of time for that. And obviously this is a really unique athlete and somebody who deserves what he's getting, which is, 4 years. That's kind of a win for CeeDee Lamb to get a 4-year contract. The Cowboys normally want 5 or 6 years so they can prorate the signing bonus and lower the cap number. But he gets 4 years, $136 million, a record, as you said, $38 million signing bonus for a wide receiver, and a $100 million guarantee. And remember, there's been a lot of criticism of the Cowboys for not spending cash, that they're one of the poorest teams in terms of spending cash, last in the league the last 3 years. But in terms of practical guarantees, this puts CeeDee Lamb right where he belongs, right under Justin Jefferson, who has $110 million in guarantees. And it's the second richest contract ever for the Cowboys organization, exceeded only by Dak Prescott's $160 million contract.
All right, and Ed, as we put things in perspective here, they did a huge deal with Dez. They did a huge deal with Amari. although ended up trading him for really not much, and then went into that season without a star wide receiver. This team, well, they actually had to trade. That one season they went in is when they traded for Amari because they were really strapped at wide receiver. This team seems to function best when it's paying a receiver huge money. That's not to say they win a bunch of playoff games, but I mean, all those guys have gotten enormous contracts, and now CD is the next in line, and it remains to be seen because isn't it funny? The last guy who got a massive contract, other than Dak, was Zeke. Now Zeke's back on a much better contract, so we can expect CD to go maybe play elsewhere, then come back after. But this deal will have him in Dallas for a while, and I find that interesting. What Mike McCarthy, you were alluding to it. Mike McCarthy said this kind of seemed to indicate this has kind of settled everybody down and made everybody feel more comfortable going into the season. Again, head coach going to the final year of his deal, quarterback going to the final year of his deal. Now CD has a long-term deal, and what awaits now is Dak. But that's interesting to me, Ed, that Mike, that was his takeaway from this has just kind of had a real calming effect on the organization.
Yeah, and to me, there was really never any question but that CeeDee Lamb was going to be signed by week 1. And this is all what happened today. What transpired was very consistent with what Stephen Jones told us in our hour-long conversation we had with him at training camp in Oxnard, California, where, he said he absolutely ruled out any possibility that they would let CeeDee Lamb play anywhere else, that they would ever consider trading him, as the 49ers were at the time, Brandon Ayuk, another hold-in receiver. And that they recognized his value. They thought he had a fair point, and he wanted to get something done that was fair to the player and reasonable for the organization. And I think for the most part, they achieved that. To me, the more interesting situation was always going to be what was going to happen with Dak Prescott because, like Steven said, hey, we've got the franchise tag if we need it for CeeDee Lamb. He's not going anywhere. Well, they don't have those same controls with Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has unprecedented leverage. And I thought it was interesting that Jerry the other day said something to the effect of, hey, we have Dak under contract for this year. Why can't he play out this contract? Why are we supposed to just ignore the fact that he has a contract year that we agreed to? Well, the reason is this just doesn't happen with a franchise quarterback. You don't allow a franchise quarterback to enter the last year of his deal if you truly value him and want him to be the face of your franchise going forward, which is what Jerry Jones has consistently said. But his actions don't really match up with that. His actions suggest he has doubts. And we have to assume his doubts are about whether Dak can win in the postseason and deliver this team a championship. That's what he's here for, even though he was a 4th-round draft pick. But, yeah, I think that's always been the most interesting thing. And now that they've got this removed and they can dedicate themselves fully to Dak Prescott's negotiations, does that make a difference? Does it make a difference that now CeeDee Lamb more than ever is going to want Dak Prescott signed? And maybe having CeeDee Lamb tied to the organization for the next 4 years will make a difference to Dak and the way he perceives, his opportunities here. But there's no miscalculating how much CeeDee Lamb means to this offense. And I'll give you some stats when you're ready for them.
Oh, hit me. I mean, you're on a roll. I do. Before you give me those stats, I find it funny that Dak, I mean, they need him. They act like they love him, and yet the way they show that love is to constantly let him get into the final year of his contract, put like the tag on him or whatever, the franchise tag in the past, and it's like Troy Aikman's told us before, and people say, well, Matt, he's making whatever, ungodly amount of money.
$40 million a year.
Yeah, he's making $40 million a year, but they don't treat him like Mahomes and all these other quarterbacks. You say, well, Matt, they've won all these, and Mahomes won all these Super Bowls, and even Stafford and other people. But again, they want to talk one way, but their actions show another way. And so this Jerry thing, Jerry thinks he can talk anybody into anything. And so this thing like, well, we're partners here. Why wouldn't we let him play into to your point, Ed, it's because nobody else does. It's because with this quarterback, they constantly say, he is great. We love him. We love him. We want to be with him forever. And yet they don't get that done. Yet, and to your point, the only thing you can be left to believe is they don't deep down truly believe in him. They would like to see him, do it in the postseason. And what would happen after that? Well, he would have even more leverage, and he might still walk, as you pointed out. I don't think he would. I think even this year, if they get on a huge roll and he's doing well, I could see Jerry get caught up in all of this and go back to his agent and go, let's get it done now. I think at that point, what would Dak say? No, sir. No, sir. We're on a roll. Romo had one season like that where he got on a big roll, and what's funny is I can almost remember this. The contract he wanted was Mark Bulger money. Mark Bulger, who is Mark Bulger? Used to play for the Rams. Got a huge deal with the Rams. That was what Romo and his agent were pointing toward. So anyway, we'll see where this. Now, do you have some numbers for me?
Yeah, and just to finish your point, when we were talking to Stephen Jones at training camp, I thought the most interesting thing he said relative to the Dak contract, and like I said, I think what Jerry said was kind of preparing the public for, hey, we don't be alarmed if we don't sign Dak Prescott before the season starts or during the season, almost as if this was always the plan. But what Stephen said about, we don't feel like we have to overpay and buy Dak's final year to prevent him from becoming a free agent, to see what else is out there, that we view this as a partnership, and nobody wants to win a championship with Dak more, than me and Jerry. That's Stephen Jones talking, not me. But just to clarify. And that point was interesting that he made to me. Now, what we don't know is we don't really have a sense of how Dak feels about all this. I don't know that he has ever – he talked in the offseason about, hey, I want to be here. I have an obligation to other quarterbacks, right, to reset the market if I can, is basically what he said. And he said, other quarterbacks have gone on to play other places. Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, pick a guy. Mm-hmm. All the Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, they all did. They all went and played somewhere else. So he seemed open to that if that was the outcome too. But as far as Dak and the importance that CeeDee Lamb holds for him going into the start of the season, last year CeeDee Lamb accounted for 32% of his team's receptions last year. That's the highest rate by any player in the NFL. And then I think these two stats really point out. Now, he put himself obviously in great position to negotiate because he had the greatest receiving season in Cowboys history with 135 catches, 1,749 yards, and 12 touchdowns. And there are 27 different quarterback receiver combinations in the NFL that have at least 250 targets since the start of the 2020 season. Dak Prescott to CeeDee Lamb combined for the highest total QBR of that group. Higher than Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, higher than Justin Herbert and Mike Williams, higher than Tom Brady and Mike Evans, higher than Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Pretty remarkable. And then, last year I said he had 1,749 yards. That's 988 more receiving yards than the next closest Dallas player, which was tight end Jake Ferguson at 761. That's the biggest gap in the NFL between a team leader in receiving yards and his next closest teammate, 203 yards more than Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins.
Wow. That is one of the many reasons why we have separated ourselves from all Cowboys podcasters. Just stats like that, good information. And I will say, Ed, that one person that Cowboys act like they want to be partners with Dak. Well, one of the guys they needed and Jerry was rooting for like crazy was Trey Lance. Oh, we gave up this pick, but what if Trey Lance is? What if he's something? What if that? And he responded with 5 picks in that game and really kind of probably hurt his chances moving forward. Although he'll likely be on the roster as we get ready to see those things. Ed, you were at the game. What did you make of Trey Lance's performance?
Described him as a ascending young player who's going to have a bright future in the league, and Jerry was guaranteeing him a spot on the roster. Only in Dallas could that be the reaction of the two most influential people in the organization when your young quarterback that goes out and throws 5 picks and has 2 fumbles. And yeah, I mean, I guess from the Cowboys' point of view, I think the preseason was great in terms of they got to really invest it all in Trey Lance. They got to see what he is and isn't capable of. And after a full year of being in Mike McCarthy's quarterback school, which he takes a lot of pride in, thinks he can really develop young passers, I think they had to be disappointed by, so the thing that bothered me the most was he threw interceptions and let the ball go in situations where it wasn't just a jeopardy. Like, there was almost no other possible outcome than the ball was going to be turned over. He didn't seem to be seeing the field. He was either predetermining his reads or making poor decisions. He's not terribly accurate. He's an exceptional runner. And I think the only real value he has this season is if Dak were to be injured for a prolonged period of time and you're starting Cooper Rush, who's already shown you that he can execute the offense and win games. Maybe you have a package of plays then for Lance as the number 2 to feature some of his mobility and his, unique running ability that Dak possessed when he came into the league as a dual threat quarterback.
Maybe this is when you need your old buddy Bill Polian to show up and say, hey, play him at slot receiver. It is Emergency Doomsday Podcast. Cowboys signed CeeDee Lamb, and Ed and I are traveling around doing a bunch of stuff, very important things, I might add. Ed, that thing you were quoting Jerry saying, did he leave out the profanity when he was talking the other day? I saw somewhere he made some quotes with our old buddy Clarence Hill, and Clarence left quite a few F-bombs in there. I'm going to have to take a peek at that. But Ed, I think that Cowboys, here they go. It's they've got the full complement of players. There can't be really an excuse. It's like, they're young on the O-line. Some coaches get saved by having rookie quarterbacks. Some get fired for having rookie quarterbacks. Cowboys have veteran quarterback, veteran great wide receiver, two very accomplished wide receivers, an excellent young tight end, very young O-line, but a talented O-line. Ed, at this point, with CeeDee with a hay in the barn, or whatever you say, I'm not really much of a farmer. I came from a country town. I don't think there's any excuses for Mike McCarthy or anybody. I mean, it's go time for these Cowboys.
Well, this will be the first time if they start Cooper Beebe at center and they start Tyler Guyton, their first-round draft pick at left tackle, as we all expect. It'll be the first time since 2011 that they've started 2 rookies on the offensive line. And, as much as they talk about wanting to be able to run the football, I'm not sure they have that ability at running back. It's interesting to me that 2 years ago they decided Ezekiel Elliott was finished, right? And they cut him. They let him move on to the Patriots. He has a bad season with the Patriots, which was a horrible offensive team, but he has a bad season statistically with the Patriots. The Cowboys bring him back and treat him like he's a crown jewel now. Like, we can't put him in the preseason games. We can't evaluate him. We don't want to assess where he is now in his career. If we can count on him as being our lead running back, I mean, we can't take that risk. We can't lose this guy. I think he does have value in terms of his leadership and in the locker room, short yardage, goal line, where they were terrible last year running the football. I think he does create some value there. But I think that's an interesting dynamic is, can they run the football? Then, we saw them remake their entire defensive line the final week of the preseason. They signed 3 defensive linemen. They signed 3 veteran defensive linemen or traded for a couple of those guys. Obviously, they didn't feel comfortable with what they had inside, so Mike Zimmer, the personnel department, goes out and gets Mike Zimmer some personnel that he thinks he needs to run his defense. And then the bad news the other night, they lose DaRon Bland. The Cowboys led the NFL in defensive pick sixes last year, and all of them were DaRon Bland. He had 5, an NFL record. And he's led the NFL in interceptions last year, and Trayvon Diggs led the NFL in interceptions 2 years ago. Everybody was looking forward to the fact they had 2 really good young corners, and now they don't have DaRon Bland, And you've got Trayvon Diggs coming back from missing almost a full season with an ACL early in the season. So they could be compromised at corner if they can't generate a pass rush.
Ed, my hair's doing stuff that's shocking even me as I try to get it under control. Yours is fine. Yours looks fine. I've got an attended event tonight. I'm just thinking this is not going to be a good look.
Might want a hat. Get a hat.
Yeah, I need to get my Travis Matthew hat. In fact, I got a big conversation coming up with one of our buddies, Danny, from Travis Matthew. That's exciing. I got
my Travis Matthew shirt on.
Yeah, and I got the black Travis Matthew. I mean, we'll sing and dance, whatever they need us to do. We appreciate Rogue Media Network. We appreciate Drop of a Hat. We needed to do an emergency podcast. We've been traveling a little bit and everything, but we wanted to get together, get you something. And, of course, once this season starts, every game will have and as needed, we'll have even more Doomsday podcast. It is Mosley. It is Werder. That is our reaction. By the way, Ed, it made me laugh thinking about the fact that these, like, fourth and fifth, like, receivers. Usually it's like, which receivers are going to make the team? Those guys won't even get on the field for the Cowboys. I think Flournoy or whatever his name, I think he's confused. I think he thinks he's like the number 2 receiver for the Cowboys. He's had so many snaps. He thinks he's like, so anyway, I mean, nobody in the top 3 Cowboys receivers has basically seen the field. Maybe Brooks at some point, but Tolbert hadn't even seen the field. So you're right. They're treating all these young players like they're crown jewels and protecting them, other than some of these linemen. Ed, thank you. Good work. Always appreciate you. It is the Doomsday Podcast. We will see you next time.
We are Rogue Media Sports. Are you a podcaster? Let's talk podcast hosting. Are you tired of your current podcast host? Need real support in a community that gets it? At Rogue Media Network, we offer top-tier podcast hosting services to help you thrive. From hosting and distribution to dedicated support, we've got you covered. Starting as low as $25 a month. Join our community of passionate podcasters today. Contact us at hello@roguemedianetwork.com.